Muhammed Ali dropped in on us in the 1970s, and we're dropping in on him to go back down memory lane.
You felt as if you could have been sparring with Jesus Christ.
He was just head and shoulders above everyone. Personality with a capital P.
Steve Cram asks why Gateshead lost the lead in world athletics. And meet the North's record breakers, whose antics leave you and them speechless.
Over 153.
I'm Chris Jackson, and this is Inside Out. Everyone who enters the ring must hope to be half as good as the great Muhammad Ali. Imagine the thrill of actually meeting the champ. But what chance of that for aspiring boxers in the Northeast? Well, back in 1977, every chance, because that's when Ali dropped in to see us. We loved him, and he loved us. In fact, so touched was he by the memory of that particular visit that in an extremely rare invitation, Ali opened up his home to the Inside Out cameras.
Wanted to go to heaven, so I took him to heaven. I'm a bad man.
I want to shock the world. I want to upset the world. I'm the greatest of all times.
July 1977, the date the greatest came to the Northeast.
There's really nobody else on the planet who would have had that sort of mass appeal. And sitting on the bus and seeing particularly the children staring at him open-mouthed, unbelieving that he was Muhammad Ali, the greatest as he called himself, visiting them and looking the part as well.
The visit was organised by a painter and decorator from Whitburn. Johnny Walker, who's since died, called on Ali's help to raise funds to revive the boxing club he ran in South Shields.
At first we couldn't believe it, but when eventually the penny dropped, we decided we had to organise quite a major programme around the visit. It revolved around meeting him from the Tyne Tunnel entrance in an open-top bus, taking him on a tour of the borough, where he met and waved to thousands of people, down to Gypsy's Green Stadium, where he played darts.
Well, I'm now the new world dart champion. I've beaten the champion, and I will return on any date you ask for me. Give me your phone number, and I'll be back, and your address. I'll stay in contact, and I will come back to challenge you for the rematch for the world title.
My biggest memory is obviously when he finally got to me and was pulling me hair. That's the biggest memory. He had a thing about me pigtails, and he just kept commenting on me hair. And I say to people, "Oh, I've met Muhammad Ali. He's actually pulled me pigtails." The looker is as if, yeah. But luckily, I've got the photographs to prove it. So
back then, I was a professional fighter at light heavyweight, and Muhammad Ali came over here to raise money for the boys' clubs. And they had a bit of trouble fitting them out with boxing equipment, basically the shorts. And from my amateur days, I had a large pair of red velvet shorts. And they phoned around and asked me if I still had them. I said, yeah, I have them. Here, have them. I said, Ali wants to use them tomorrow night to box exhibitions. I remember going round and I was catching him with jabs, catching me, vice versa. And I thought, well, I don't want to do too much here. I don't want to hit him too hard in case he gets bad-tempered about it. So I stepped back and I remember doing an alley shuffle, and he looked at me and think, God, this man's got some cheek. He smiled about it, so I wasn't outdoing him, you know what I mean? And then we floated round a bit more, or moved round a bit more, and then at the end of the round when the bell went, I think they wanted me out of the ring because I was making him look a bit bad, you know what I mean?
Ali fought 5 different opponents on the night, and his quality as a showman was there for all to see.
Everybody was a fan of Ali. He was so different. He just brought such mass appeal to boxing and sport in general. And he really lived up to everybody's expectations.
Looking back on it and getting the chance to go in and spar with a triple world heavyweight champion, it was nice to know that I could get in there and land the old jab on him, something as simple as a jab, and sort of give me a little bit of maybe a little bit of a boost to say, well, if I can hit Muhammad Ali, the rest of you lot there better watch out,
He was just head and shoulders above everyone. Just so handsome fellow. and personality with a capital P.
During his action-packed 4 days, Ali also spent time in Newcastle at a school for children with special needs.
Then he said a few words, and then he asked if there were any questions, and I was surprised you could understand some of the Geordie questions.
How did I become box? Somebody stole my bicycle. Made me angry. And I went to a boxing gym so that I could catch the boy who stole it and beat him up.
His eyes, were watery, and he said it's really made me feel very emotional, particularly as I've got this new baby who's so healthy, and I think I should count my blessings. It was one of the greatest days, his visit, one of the greatest. There was a picture taken, and I was given one, and it was with a child, and he lifted him up, and you could see the emotion when he clutched this child to him. So we were proud, the parents were proud, and the children were just over the top.
Perhaps the most extraordinary event of a truly extraordinary visit was the blessing of Ali's marriage at the mosque in South Shields.
He felt that would be very good, a very good place for him to have his wedding blessed. He hadn't long been married. He wanted the wedding blessed in a proper mosque, and here was one on the doorstep when he was visiting. So as soon as he knew that, he felt that was going to be a very important part of his visit. So the arrangements were made immediately to have the mosque available for the wedding, and actually attracted Muslims from all over the northeast and further afield.
Everybody was happy and laughing and joking, and he was shouting, "Oh, Muhammad Ali, oh, Muhammad Ali, oh, Muhammad Ali, you're welcome, Just. And then he says, don't forget to pray for me, And he says, I am very proud.
I've never been so honored right in America itself among government officials and authorities. So this is the news that I'm going to take back, and I'm overjoyed. And next time I go in the ring, I'll always remember how many people I have rooting for me back here.
One person who was at the wedding, but was too young to remember, is Ali's daughter, Hana, who was just a year old at the time.
It was interesting watching myself with my parents at that young age, them together, and I always get a thrill out of watching my father, especially when he's on, a humanitarian trip, when he's trying to do good for charity or whatnot, because it seems to me that he's the most alive when he's doing that kind of thing, and you can tell that he really does love it, Like, I noticed he actually expressed it in there. He came to the States seeing that he, how much he was admired, and he's taking that back with him. So it's not all for nothing, it's not in vain. He knows that these people look up to him, and the more places he went, I think the more he was felt with pride, and it just fills him up.
So what does the great man himself remember of his visit? Parkinson's disease has kept Ali out of the spotlight in recent years, but he granted us rare access to his ranch in Michigan. He was keen to see our footage, but not before performing his famous levitation trick.
When I talked to my dad about it, I asked him if he had seen it, and he had expressed that he had, and he felt a little sentimental. It was a time when youth was still ahead of him. He was 100% healthy, I was one and a half, so he was excited about it, made him feel happy, and took him back, I think. I know for sure he hasn't seen anything like that lately, just actually there with my mother and me when we were that young in the carriage, and, watching them have his wedding blessed. That was a nice experience. I think he was somewhat sentimental and moved by it. He gets excited just watching himself when he's boxing, and, it gives him the energy, or I don't know what, to just sort of get in there and start, throwing punches at the bag. Just his eyes open up wide, and he starts calling around, and it's probably the best medicine, I think.
It's just amazing to think that we actually met him, and he was in the Northeast.
You felt as if you could have been sparring with Jesus Christ. You knew he was a little bit above you.
Everybody who was associated in any way at all with the visit will remember it, even if it was just one of those little boys standing waving at him.
I became almost a fan of his, to tell you the truth, knowing nothing about boxing. But it was a day in my memory that I'll never forget.